Everyone, welcome to the Village of Woodbury Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for November of 2024. If you would all please rise and join us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let me start by introducing the board from your right to left. Right to left. I never get that right. My left to right. Ms. Beverly Silvera. Mr. Michael Wozniak. Mr. Ed DeJesus.
Good evening.
Ms. Rachel Bruce. I'm Craig Brady. And our counsel to my right is Ms. Ashley Torrey. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. We have no client attorney session this evening. Regular business. May I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the October meeting as presented?
Motion.
Motion to Beverly, second to Rachel. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passed. We have no new business this evening. Our first action is an action on decisions for 122 Pine Hill Road. This is to review the decision requesting 3 variances for the construction of a 5-foot chain link fence on the front and side yards, whereas pursuant to section 146-5B, no fence shall be more than 4 feet in height in any front or side yard. Said property is located in the R2A zoning district at 122 Pine Hill Road in Highland Mills and is known in the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 218, Block 2, Lot 44. For the record, the Orange County Department of Planning returned a decision that this was up to local determination for the 239M requirements on October the 12th. And the summary of the discussion is as follows. As a consequence of the board's discussions, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the requested area variances described and discussed above to the extent noted above, conditioned on the applicant receiving all necessary permits from the building department, and hereby finds that the variances as granted are the minimum variances necessary to preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood. Per section A316-9E of the Village Code, this decision shall expire if a building permit is not obtained by the applicant within 180 days from the date of this decision or the date of final approval by the planning board if such an approval is required. This board may extend the time for one additional period of 90 days if such extension is warranted by the particular circumstances. May I have a motion and a second for this decision?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ed, second by Michael. Can we do a roll call, please? Or I'll do the roll call, sorry. Beverly?
Aye.
Beverly is an aye. Ed?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the decision is granted for the variance on the fences at 122 Pine Hill Road.
Do I have to obtain another application?
No, you should be good to go. Just contact the building department. Today's Wednesday, probably Friday, and it'll all be set and done for you. Okay? But check with them. If there's anything you need to change, they'll tell you. All right? You're good to go. You bet. Thank you. Next are public hearings. Our first public hearing is for 50 Greenwich Avenue. This is a continuation of a public hearing requesting a variance for the construction of a parking area in the front of a single-family dwelling, whereas pursuant to Section 310-7, the maximum permitted impervious surface coverage is 20%. The applicant is proposing 44.2%. Said property is located in the R1A zoning district at 50 Greenwich Avenue in Central Valley and is known in the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 248, Block 1, Lot 44. Mr. Concepcion, I see you're here.
Yes, sir.
We did receive a revised drawing on the 7th of November. Can you maybe walk us through what's done here?
Well, that's actually a smaller copy. I actually dropped off some bigger plans. So what we did at your suggestion, because this is our 5th meeting now over the last 6 months, we got together, our engineer with the engineer provided by the town, as well as the building inspector. They came to the premises, and those plans are actually were adjusted to accommodate what the building inspector and the.
Yeah, I'm trying
Here we go.
I apologize because this is my first attempt at using this thing, and
If you scroll down and.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Okay, now we got it full screen. And we'll see how long it takes to scroll down. It'd be much easier if I had this on a local screen. So there's, and you want me to go left or right?
Well, so this is the backyard where we have the issue is over on this end. So we need to scroll down this way.
Okay.
All right, so here we are. This
Yep.
This is where we have the issue. Now, all this was previously done. What we did, this is now pavers. And here, I know that you had a concern with this looking too open. So when we discussed it with your engineer and also the building inspector, they didn't think that this area here, given that if we had 2 seepage tanks instead of 1, these were all adjusted to accommodate what your engineer, or I say the town engineer, decided that was acceptable. So instead of 1 seepage tank, there's 2 seepage tanks now present in order to, because the problem here would be the accumulation of the water. So now with 2 seepage tanks, it would accommodate the additional space that would be required. Then you had a concern, Mr. Brady, about this looking too much open as like a parking lot. So in the middle of the property, we created like removing like pavers in this area here in order and do some plantings or whatever, so it doesn't look so much the way that like the open look where you were concerned that it was looking more like a parking area. And in this area here, this would break everything out, which will not be as flat as it normally was.
Okay.
The engineer didn't think that this was necessary, but this, I actually requested our engineer to put that in because you had that concern about this looking way too much open as far as the parking and all that goes. So again, the engineers discussed it. The building inspector also talked about it. I didn't want to come before you until they actually were okay with it. So your engineer is okay with this. Now it's up to you to decide.
Okay, can you tell me what's the dimension of, and if you look where I'm pointing, from here to here, what's the width of that area?
This would be, I mean, I don't know the exact area, but it just fits a vehicle coming in. So the idea is for the vehicle to come in here and be able to go around if necessary, because it kind of breaks it out a little bit. So it's no longer looking, all that open, where the concern was, okay, you're just gonna, come in here and not have any breakage in this area here. If I were to guess, I would say maybe between here and here will be 18 feet.
Okay, but if you recall at the last meeting, which probably was September, I want to
Correct.
think it was, one of the things that I had said was, and I don't know if anybody else echoed me on the board, was that this area, since you originally proposed it as a way to handle the seepage and the soft land,
Correct.
right, was that this needed separation from the driveway, that it should not be connected to the driveway in any way.
Okay,
Right?
so.
I don't see, that's why I'm specifically asking. I don't see that here.
Okay, well, what we did was to actually add the breakage was to add this area, because this wasn't originally in the plan. The other option would be to actually do like Belgian blocks in this area here, and actually completely break out this area that we have.
And if it's a foot, it doesn't have to be a huge area. To me, again, the point here is that that's not part of the driveway. You didn't
Correct.
propose it as part of the driveway, it was for controlling flooding, I'll say, right?
Okay.
So it should not be used for vehicles parking part of the driveway in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
That was my concern. Now,
Okay.
I don't know if the board, the rest of the board agrees or disagrees with that, so I'm speaking purely for myself.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I agree with that. I have
Especially because we
also-
just talked about cars going around it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. My idea was, yeah, if that were, like, for example, the problem was the parking area, right? You don't want any cars parked in here, because the idea, the premise was that we would turn this into a parking lot, which is not our intention. We already have a 3-car garage, we only have 2 vehicles, so that's not our intention. Like, the only time that we would come in here is, for example, grocery shopping, our kitchen is over, let's say, in this area, so we would wanna come up, this area, it's more practical to be able to come up this way or whatever, and then, but it's not something that where we would have like, 10 vehicles in the area. So it's just, so I said, you know what, I mean, to accommodate what you had said, it was like, if we do this in the middle, then it's not gonna look like a parking lot, and basically, we would actually, instead of just coming and say from the driveway straight in, or backing in or whatever to unload our stuff here, what we could do now is like, okay, we come around, that's why I said about the vehicle. So instead of doing this here, we put this area in here, which covers about 231 square feet of area that's being removed out of here. Instead of just doing Belgian blocks across here, to kind of, this is basically breaking it so that we wouldn't have to put the Belgian blocks in this area. But if you say, you know what, I want the Belgian blocks there, I don't care about this, I just want breakage there, then I guess I'll have to, to accommodate whatever it is that you require. Because, I mean, again, this area here was just added in so that we wouldn't have to put the Belgian blocks over in this area, because this allows for the breakage that you were looking for. And again, we discussed this with your engineer, and I mean, the way that it was before, as you can see, was a big problem, because the problem was the accumulation of the water, and this right here is actually gonna be taking care of that problem.
One question. So where the tanks are, is that on the side that the driveway is sloping down towards,
So
that's?
this is the upper area.
Okay, so my concern is the sloping of the
Right, well,
driveway.
like the property adjacent is sloping over this way to my property. So this, imagine that this were like this.
All right, so they're sloping over to you, and you're
Correct.
sloping over to the next house.
Right, so
So
all
in a
that- there's
case
gonna be-
where, if last year, 23 in July, when we had that storm, that superstorm, and there were floods all over the place.
Right.
If that should happen, your neighbor where your lower sloping ends, it will be in
Well,
trouble.
I'm the only one that gets the slope. So for example, this here goes on a hill this way, and then it plateaus right here. So this is pretty much even, and this neighbor here doesn't get any of the water. So I get everybody's water coming, what is this, west of the property. Everything slopes here and kind of plateaus in this area right here. And I'm the one that gets all the accumulated water. I used to anyway, before this was in. And again, what we're trying to do is to fix the problem, because it was already there last year. The way that it is, that we're trying to get a variance for what's already been done. So we didn't have that kind of problem that that you're alluding to. Just because, again, my property is the one that gets all the water, and then here it plateaus, so they get none of the water, so everything used to accumulate all in this area. So by doing that, what we did was, we actually, this was constructed, but now we need to fix the problem, is basically what needs to be done. And then with these here, what's gonna happen is that they gotta dig all this stuff up and actually connect pipes to here so that all the water that's actually coming from this area actually all collects here and pretty much goes right into these tanks.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, you've got at that boundary, and I'll point to it here, right? That line delineates the French drain to drain off and into them as well, right?
Correct. Well, they're actually gonna have to do a lot more work than that, according to the engineers, where they're gonna have to go like to the back of the property and actually pretty much dig trenches to make sure that all the leaders from the property are connected to this.
Downspouts from the house.
Exactly. So it's gonna be even though this is already done, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area so that all that stuff gets accumulated so that pretty much everybody's happy. So it's not just, that, okay, we're throwing in tanks and, this water's supposed to go here. Basically, all the leaders from here are gonna be connected to this area here.
Got it.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, one other thing, and there'll be provision in place for stagnation and
That's-
bacteria.
All that, there's also there's maintenance that's gotta be done also on a regular basis. Once you have these in, I believe it's like every 6 months or so, you need to open those up and make sure that the water levels are right and everything. So, again, this right here is gonna pretty much cover, because right now, it's done without these. So, and it's been done for, more than a year, so I'm thinking like a year and a half now. So now, if they grab all the leaders from the entire house, and everything is connected here, it's pretty much, that's gonna resolve the problem 100%.
Thank you.
Our only issue, I would think, is, okay, either we have this or this area here. That's kind of where Mr. Brady, had the issue with this here. That's why we created this. Or that we have this, or do the Belgian blocks up in the front. So I guess that's up to you.
Yeah, one thing I will say that the, just personally, I do think that the inclusion plan, if that dimension is true to what it would actually be hypothetically, is certainly an improvement. I've seen in different driveways in different parts of the town, typically this is not coming as a driveway request, which is a very different thing, but you do see driveways that have planters in the middle with the same sort of, you have the driveway, perpendicular to the house, and then you have the wraparound here, so, it has been done, but the thing is that it's a different sort of request, so that's, the primary inhibitor with that.
Okay, so, again, at this point, I would do what you ask, to try to, kind of mitigate whatever has already been done. But again, the idea of having the engineers talk and discuss and actually come up with a plan, this is what both engineers came up with to actually put everyone at ease.
And well, I suppose we could figure out the math ourselves, but the paving stones to just regular lot ratio with that planter involved now, it's 230, was it 237 square feet?
231 square feet being removed from the center here.
Okay.
So that comes off. Now, in addition to all the plans that were prepped, like this deck here, this is like, it's included as part of the impermeable area, but there's, I believe there's like 1,200 square feet of deck area that's really, not really pavers or anything like that. This area here is included as part of the coverage, and in reality, the water that goes on the deck is actually going into the ground and going out. But I guess that this area is supposed to be included in the calculation.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's really not part of the coverage that says that it's actually covering.
Yeah.
So if you really would actually have to subtract this, and there's some areas here as well that would be realistically subtracted, because, for example, there's a tree house over on this end here, and it's just like, it's just, you got go up the steps on the tree. Like, is the tree's there, like the tree wasn't removed. So right there is covering, I think like 100 and some odd square feet, which in reality, is not really covering that area either. So again, this area here is included as part of coverage, but it's really not real coverage.
Yeah, but I believe the law says.
What was that, I'm sorry?
I mean, the law says, so we have to include it.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, the idea of having the engineers come up, and they were the ones that cooked it up to make sure that it doesn't bother anyone, and that it's not gonna cause any problems with the town or anything like that. So,
Yeah, that's us.
well, yeah, that's up to you now.
It's us and the building inspector, right? And if the building inspector was okay with this,
Then,
Well, they were both there at the
that's what I'm
premise.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And when they discussed it, like, they went back and forth. That's why we had to cancel last meeting, because they were going back and forth to make sure that your engineer and your building inspector were okay
Yeah.
with what was being done. And once they said, this looks good, then I said, I want that meeting to come before you again.
yeah. And I think it's assuring also that they gave their blessing a little bit to this, because it's my understanding that what the village owns, 3 feet under your property, it's 6 feet from the center of the road. It is a skinnier road than a major road. I'm trying to just figure where the cutoff is there, but, just because it's so
There's
close.
standard easements, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter,
It
okay.
doesn't really affect it in any way, shape, or form.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no, the engineers were good with, I'm calling them cisterns, they're not, but the 2 tanks,
yeah.
right?
Well, they're pretty,
They're big. I get it. No, the engineers agreed on that and the downspouts, and they kind of put the whole thing together. The only thing, I guess it's up to the pleasure of the board whether we want to condition this on separating that, I'll call it front pad, from the driveway. If we do, that can be a condition of approval and we could move forward. I don't know what the pleasure of the board is.
well, I'm really hopeful that, I mean, again, if we divide here, I thought that this would give the property a better look, just because it looks similar to the neighboring
I
property.
agree,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying remove that. I'm saying in addition.
For
That-
functionality.
That's my point. There's 2 separate things. One is you like that and we like it from a perspective of breaking up this, I'll call it concrete pad, right? If you like it and that's good, that's fine. I'm not saying it's an either or. I'm saying one of the conditions would be separating the pad, I'll call it that, from the driveway.
Okay.
So, because
Well, at this point, I'm okay with that. I
That-
mean, you know,
if you're okay with that,
We're
we could
okay.
make that a condition
Yeah. Yes.
and go forward. I don't know
Right.
what the rest of the board feels, but
Yep,
No, I defer to the group.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I feel like we've addressed the water issues, but not the almost 100%, over 100% variance for the coverage.
Yeah.
That we haven't discussed whatsoever, and that's a big issue. Because if we grant that, then we're saying to everybody who comes after you that that's okay, and that's a big issue.
well, that's the whole idea of having the engineers,
They helped you with the water mitigation.
well, right, but the additional, the reason that the coverage is set at a certain amount is that those problems do not happen. So by adding these tanks, what we're doing is basically fixing the problem of the excess property coverage.
Then
That we're
the
looking,
pavers aren't needed anymore?
what was that?
And the pavers wouldn't be needed anymore?
Well, if the pavers weren't there, then,
It's two
I
different
mean-
things.
what was that?
2 different things.
But I
You're
thought the
talking about
pavers were there because of the fact that that you get a lot of water on that piece of property. If
Right.
you're having all the water go to the tanks, what's the purpose of the pavers?
Well, I mean, the reason that we have the pavers, I mean, if we do all this stuff here, I mean, the idea is to actually be able to have the pavers. Because, I mean,
Which comes
again,
back to the variance of over 100%.
it would diminish the variance.
It's
Right,
it's a
so
conundrum.
you're allowed 20%, and right now you're at 44.2%.
again, the idea is, so in order for us to be able to have the pavers, this is the actual fix overall. So, I mean, if we have the pavers, then, again, if the idea is to be able to have use this area, because again, it was a lot of water, so we would, prefer to have the paver, that's why we're going through the whole process and having the additional expense of doing all this. In addition to that, bringing all the water from back here everything is gonna be connected directly to here. So it's not going into the sewer lines basically directly, it's going in here.
I understand that part.
No, I mean, I think it's a valid point that Mike is bringing up. I mean, would you consider in any way just sort of, I don't want to say alleviating, basically like, maybe cutting off, I don't know, 10 feet around the surface? So like you would still have some aspect of an impervious surface, but it wouldn't be as major as it is now, because
As
it is
much.
a lot, quite frankly. It really is a pretty significant amount, and we understand, the need, of course, but just, keeping with the fact that, we don't want to set necessarily, some kind of precedent that anybody can come in here and ask, for something as large as this. Even though we understand the situation, we're conscious, and it's been on all of our minds, but would you consider that potentially, maybe?
So, I mean, what would we do here? Like, what, maybe you're saying cut here, cut 10 feet into here?
Yeah.
What we should try to do, we're at a 44.2% variance. I don't see a pathway for that. You have to lower the variance. That's the only way this is gonna work.
So what is an acceptable,
That's the question.
I mean, what is an acceptable, because again, I mean, we've gone through the whole drill and so if there's like, we have like an idea what the acceptable addition would be, then it's something that we can talk to the engineers and redo the plans.
I don't disagree with that. We don't have that answer right at this moment. We would have to, that's where we have our decision at the end. We'll have to talk about it.
Okay,
Yeah, so at this point, are the tanks in place?
well, if we cut in, more here, then all this is not gonna be necessary. Like, we won't need as much, because again, the reason for having all this is because all this is already here.
Yeah, see, that's,
So it changes
That's the
everything
problem.
again.
You guys by law have to look at it like you haven't done this yet.
Right,
We can't
I
look
understand.
at it that way.
No, I
So
understand.
that's why we
Right.
have to look at it. We're basically granting you a variance to do this work.
Correct.
That's the way we have to look at it. So
Right.
I would
Yeah.
just please keep that in mind when, we understand that on your situation, and we're not heartless, but we have laws that we have to look at.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, well, whenever that decision is made, I mean, if we know exactly what is acceptable, then we can say, you know what, like, I mean, design something that does this. I mean, the other thing that we could actually do is, and not get any of this done, I mean, that, again, we discussed this, and I did mention it to the engineers, and I had already discussed it with my engineer, but with the town's engineer, we had discussed actually removing some of the stuff and putting impermeable pavers. But again, with all this here, that wouldn't be necessary. So for example, if I were to say, you know what, I'm putting permeable pavers in this area here, I won't need any of this stuff, and I wouldn't even need to be here, for that, because again, the reason that we've had all these visits is because we want to keep what's there. I
What's there,
understand
you
that I
wanna
gotta be granted
salvage what's
permission.
there.
So, I mean, because it's a lot of work to undo and then redo, the work. That's why we say, you know what, the least disturbance would be to actually come up with this plan.
but then the least disturbance will be a precedent, a very bad precedent going forward, which would be very disturbing for the community.
How so? Because if we're doing this, and let's say, and again, I understand that, let's say someone else wanted a permit and they're willing to do this work as well, I mean, I don't see how that would create an issue if it's not gonna create a problem for the town.
It will, because there are laws in place that we have to maintain, right?
They've already spoken and said they don't want more than 20%. That's why we have the zoning board, because we understand that doesn't fit everybody's position. But there is an issue with the size of the variance. So we'll discuss it when we get there. We appreciate it. Is there anybody else? Is there anything else?
So just one comment, when you say it was okay with the town or okay with the village, rather, it's it's up to this board as far as the variance. So I understand you met with them to address how to address the
I'm sorry, I
water
didn't mean
issue,
that it
but
was okay with the town or the village. I meant the engineers, the town's engineers that
As far
went
as
there,
handling the
they came up
water,
with this plan
that's-
together with my engineer to make sure that everybody was whole on the process. But again, it's up to the board to decide how that's gonna go.
I think the concern about precedence is always important, but each property stands on its own. And I apologize for what just went up on the screen because
Mr. Brady.
Windows wants an update. How about no? Not now. Tomorrow, fine.
Wish you could see
Okay,
the
sorry about that. Each property and each request for a variance stands on its own. In this case, there's a particular, let's call it need, that's been demonstrated in terms of water and runoff and seepage and what have you. So I think that that can be a mitigating factor in the context of what we're talking about for precedence. The size is concerning. Would we like to see something smaller in terms of that front area? I don't know that you'd need to change anything from an engineering perspective, other than what we were talking about of separating the driveway. And again, my opinion, the board has to vote on this and everybody has to agree. It doesn't have to agree, but it has to be voted by a majority of the board. Separating the driveway from that, I call it pad, and maybe shrinking that pad by some factor that's fairly significant. 5 feet all the way around? I don't know, right?
Well, I'll give you an idea, like, I mean, if we were to do anything here, it would be to eat into this area here, and make this more of a green area over here. Like, for
Right.
example, this is all like, grass and plantings and stuff. If we cut in here, then I don't see then why we would need this here. That's kind of the thing, and then, again, the other, I mean, there are multiple options. Another option is to remove this here as far or as much as we can in this area significantly and make this as permeable pavers. Again, that was something that we had discussed before, which would not change, like this one be here and then everything would look pretty much similar, except that it's gonna be different types of pavers in this area, but they're permeable, so there's no concern over the coverage.
So were permeable pavers discussed with the engineers?
We did, but again, when they went and saw what was there and what we actually needed to make everything right, they came up with this plan.
Okay.
But again, I mean, again, we will have to go back to the drawing board and say, you know what, if we do permeables in this area, but again, that's it's also very costly to do that, where we have to remove all these pavers and redo the entire area well, we can't just do part of it, we would have to do the entire, at least this area here, as permeables, and that, you know, that's kind of I mean, none of this stuff would actually be needed then, because now, I mean, the permeable pavers is not part of the coverage.
So when did you meet with our engineer?
It was shortly after our last meeting in September, so the
All right.
building inspector came,
But the pavers were already
and
done.
the engineer, right, I mean, they've been done for more than a year and a half.
Okay.
So, but anyway, again, it has to be granted again, and to your account, oh, I'm sorry, I believe it was you that you made the comment on the when the water actually, when there was a storm that actually, with the storms and stuff, or was it?
I think that was better.
Yeah.
Silvera?
Yeah.
Right, so that wasn't an issue, like, but we've had that before in previous years when this was pretty much inundated, and the entire summer, this was like. you
It
couldn't
was
even
all
walk there.
mud.
It was very, you know, it was very swampy in the area, so it did help us quite a bit. Again, I didn't mean to put these in without authorization. We had hired someone to do the work, but again, I'm ultimately responsible for it. So they did the work, and they didn't believe that there was a permit necessary to do that. So that's where, that's why we're here, trying to make everything right.
It's a good reminder for members of the public, always check to see if you need a permit before you do the work.
Well, actually, I did ask him to check, and he's like, don't worry about it, you don't need it.
Yeah, well,
But I believe
Famous
it,
last
but
words.
That's my problem.
that becomes a trust but verify opportunity.
Yep.
Okay, anything else from the board? Where do we stand?
I've been satisfied with all the answers I've gotten.
Okay, so which direction do we want to go in? Do we want to go with separate the driveway? Do we want to?
I mean, I think that separating the driveway sort of fits into alleviating the variance a little bit, so I mean, that could be helpful. I mean, then you can
I
sort
don't
of,
think it separates alleviates the variance because it's still covered area.
Yeah.
But it prevents it requiring another variance because technically you're not allowed to have cars parked in the front yard.
yeah, that's a good point.
So by
Correct.
putting a barrier there, you're avoiding that next problem. Because
Right.
if you forget to move the car at 10 o'clock at night, in theory, you could be cited for having a car. in the
Gotcha.
front
Yeah.
yard
Well, look,
just
I
to get
mean, we
some-
could just, right here, again, we could just divvy it up, like, right in this area. We could just, create something that looks, somewhat decent here, and just kind of separate this entire area from here, and I guess that,
That's the
hopefully
bare
that
minimum.
helps.
I think
That's-
that's the bare minimum must be done.
Agree.
If we could just shrink the size of the variance
paved
from
area.
44% to, I'm throwing a number out there, 30. It might be a little bit
I
better.
don't see how you get to 30.
I know, I'm
You
just
don't
throwing
like
numbers
that.
out there.
Well, that would be like, in here then,
I don't know the answer to that. I'm just throwing this crazy number.
Yeah,
But 44% coverage bothers me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's big enough, if it's perceived to be big enough for a car to park there, it's trouble.
Yeah, but the separation of the driveway completely remediates
Eliminates
that,
invisibility.
right? Regardless of the size, if it's separated and a car can't get there,
there.
you don't have to worry about that aspect, right? So
Right.
it's up to the board
So
because
separation-
my personal opinion is separating the driveway with a physical barrier of some sort. I think whatever 12-foot Belgian, 12-foot, no.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's a wall.
God,
That's
that's
not a block, that's a wall. 12-inch Belgian, something that a vehicle
Can I get through?
cannot get over, right? So that it's completely not part of the driveway, it's not perceived as part of the driveway, and you can't get to it. Maybe remove, I'll use the pointer, if I can get to it. Is it going? Here it is, it's over here, where this line is, right? And put the barrier there. Because you don't want to make it right by the French drain, right?
Right.
Which is there, you don't want to mess with that. So put that
Well,
barrier,
I was thinking maybe towards the end of this wall here. Because we want to make it, straight. So, I guess this.
Up
would be
to you.
better. Because again, this is a proposed
Oh.
line. So
it's not there yet.
no.
Okay.
So this could actually be done over on this end, here, instead of here, and then we can just divvy up the driveway in this area.
Okay, so this is going to be a pain, because now what that means, you're going to have to take what we're suggesting to you back and have your guy draw new plans up, which is what we're saying, right?
Okay, so basically what you're saying is just draw the division here. That would be, I guess, I just want to be clear so that we're
Agreed.
not, going into the next year, and doing this again. So like if we do a division here, that's an option, and then let's say that I make all this permeable pavers, am I okay with that then? Because then I'm not really,
In my opinion, I think that would solve your problem.
That would help.
and then I won't
Yeah.
need this here, right?
No, you still need
Still
it.
need it.
Still need
You'll
it.
still
The
need-
point is, two separate issues, coverage, driveway.
Okay,
So separating driveway is like,
so this doesn't do it for you here then? I guess.
Unfortunately, it's not enough.
it's
It's
simply, it's
aesthetic.
only 231 square feet. It actually, when all the other things were added in, your
Well, I guess
total-
if I'm gonna divide this, I'm gonna need something to do here, to look different, so.
I think you could leave that as is with those 231 out if you wanted to, and have some sort of foliage, tree, whatever planted there, and that That's up to you. That's a visual aspect of what you want to have in the front of your home. We're saying separate the driveway as a requirement,
Okay.
okay?
So
And
you're saying
then,
this is good, but separate the driveway. Does that work?
I think that's fine with me.
I think because of the engineers getting together and doing what they did with you, I'm okay with that. I think the other members of the board are saying they would prefer to see permeable pavers. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, right?
I'm still not comfortable with the amount of square foot we're talking about of coverage.
Understood.
I love the idea of separating the driveway, that's a big thing. But I think we need to shrink it down somewhere, and permeable pavers will alleviate most of it, if not some of it.
Well, that whole area is how many square feet? Do we know?
It would be somewhere
I don't
on this side here.
It's
You need to scroll over here.
all the way to this side.
They have a legend somewhere.
Oh, it's at the bottom here.
Oh, actually, it's up here somewhere. That's where the legend
I
is.
can't see this. This is
Driveway
too.
and walk it.
So it's, scroll a little bit farther because there's two coverages.
Oh, front cover, here we go.
So the front is 32,030, but the problem is that the new area there was never broken out separately. Or was it? 8190?
I don't see it.
Yes, it's 8190.
8190, yeah.
Front yard.
Let's say that's 3,000 square feet. It's got to be more than that.
I mean, if you check the legend, it'll tell you exactly, it's somewhere up here.
Let's see if I can scroll over for you.
Yeah, this is
You gotta
just
scroll up.
fine.
Yep.
There you go. Oh, right here, on the bottom, in this area here.
All right.
So this is kind of the
Side, front, 60.
So by my read, on the right-hand column, 8190 square feet is the front coverage. But that doesn't break out the area that we're talking about.
well, there's the driveway and the walkway,
Oh,
kind
so
of breaks
subtract the
everything out
difference.
by piece.
Yeah, it still
Yeah, I
doesn't
can't
break
see
it out
this.
into that, what we call the new area in the front. This section. And unfortunately, he didn't put dimensions on the map that we can read to say it's this wide and this deep and this long. So, Ed, what I'm hearing from you is permeable pavers, pull the section out of the middle, and barrier in the driveway? Is that a fair read?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that whatever the coverage ends up being, treating permeable pavers as if they weren't there, right?
Yes.
Non-surface coverage. We're good with that, whatever the percentage comes out to be.
Right.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
If it comes out to be 33,
30%.
44, 35%, we're good with it?
Yeah.
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 I
Okay,
think that's.
so did you follow that?
Yep.
I think that's meeting halfway.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess next meeting then we'll,
Finally.
maybe we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, I'm gonna run it one more time. Separate the driveway completely from the front pad,
That's this here.
however you wanna
We
do
did
that.
some permeables here, you want a maximum coverage of anywhere between 33 and 35% maximum.
I think it's whatever, if you leave that section that you pulled out already, the circle.
Right.
Right? Leave it as is, as non-covered.
Okay,
Replace the rest of them with permeable pavers.
okay.
Whatever that works out to, I think we're good. But please have him in this, put the length and width of that area so that we know the exact
Here,
dimensions.
Here. Okay.
Well, basically what I'm saying is, what's this length? What's this width?
Okay,
And what's the total square foot of these permeable pavers?
understood.
All right?
Now, I mean, again, as I go through the drawing process with the engineer, it may be possible that maybe this area would be, let's say, permeable, for example, the entire area, or this area. I mean,
So that's up to you. If you
right,
want
but what you're saying is, because again, we're gonna decide, okay, what's better? based on the slope that we have, where is it better to have the permeables? Is it here or is it here? Right? Because again, if we're sloping this way, this is just me
It's-
thinking. If we're sloping this way, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be better to have permeables in this area where the water would actually sink here, right? Instead of accumulating here with the non-permeable pavers.
So
But
tell you-
again, this is me thinking,
Yeah,
I'm thinking that they'll
Yeah.
probably pick this area, the higher area, would be better for them.
I think if you use the driveway, if you go towards the non-permeable driveways, then I think the 33%, you would be going for a percentage then at that point, as opposed to just doing it, whatever that comes out to. So
Okay.
in that sense, I think I would be okay with 33% variance.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so I gotta get to work.
I apologize for this taking so long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're trying to get it right.
Yeah.
We appreciate
I-
your
We
collaboration.
appreciate your willingness to work with us.
Well, and thank you guys for putting up with about an hour now.
It's worth it.
It's worth it, it is. Okay,
Okay.
thank
So I
you.
guess
We-
we'll see you
Okay.
next month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have to do that. So,
Check if anyone is here.
first thing is, anyone here in the public wish to speak to this application? Going twice. Okay, sold. Can I have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing to our next meeting in December?
Motion.
Motion by Rachel, second by Ed. Any discussion? None. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you,
Good night,
sir.
Okay, good
Hi, thank you.
night.
All right. Where are we? Okay. Next on our agenda is Aon LLC. It's a public, public hearing requesting an area variance for the construction of 2 wall signs from Village Code Chapter 310, Attachment 11, relative to the number of wall signs permitted in the IB district. Said property is located in the IB zone along Estrada Road in Central Valley, is known in the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 226, Block 1, Lot 21.22. Sir, how are you this evening?
Good evening. My name is George Lifko. I am the attorney for the project. When this project started, I was a lot younger. The first application was made in November 2014. So we have been working diligently at this. I should mention the member of Aon LLC that was expecting to come tonight had another obligation suddenly pop up. Couldn't make it, but he would like to come if there are future meetings. So basically, we are, Aon is constructing a hotel, Choice Hotel. It is a franchise. They entered into the franchise agreement in 2016. They have been at the planning board initially in November 2014 through 2016. It was a brief interlude while we engaged in constructive interaction with the courts. But it's now proceeding forward. It was proceeding forward in 2020. I think they got their building permit in March of 2020, and obviously events intervened with that as well. At any rate, they are now moving forward. They're hopeful of getting a certificate of occupancy in a month or two, and one of the issues that we had to resolve in order for that to happen is the issue of a second wall sign. It is required by Choice as a franchisee. They're supposed to use their best efforts to make it happen. This is sort of unique because it's a wall sign on the thruway side. It was interesting when I was looking through some of your past minutes. I saw that you have recently dealt with the Hampton Inn. And in my submission I included a number of examples of multiple wall signs. And I'm afraid my Hampton Inn is inaccurate because I think I read they have 4 wall signs existing and you approved one last year. So that's in the nature of a hotel. They do look for signage to indicate they're there. And it's not just signage to say, here's where we are, and here's where you go to get to us. Sometimes it's just enough signage so that someone driving past knows that there is a there to get to. And, you know, if you've driven around anywhere and you have a favorite hotel, you want to see those things and know there's one here or there. Our family prefers Hampton Inn, although we may change. And when you drive up the thruway, you see signage on the roadways indicating there's a Hampton Inn there. For us, it's, you know, it leaps out. So this is one of the major reasons why this sign would be on the thruway side, the east side of the hotel. There's a smaller sign right over the entrance, and that's because people need to know where they're going when they go down the Strata Road. But those are also people driving 30 miles an hour, not 60 or 70 miles an hour like on the thruway. So that's why there needs to be a second sign there. It is, you have, as part of the submission, the choice signage package. And those are standard signs that go on Choice Hotels. It's a franchise, and that way people know it without reading it necessarily. So that's why it's important to the hotel to have it. And one of the things, though, that they have done as they've gone through this process is reduce the sign size, I think, significantly. And you have a letter from the architect explaining how that happened. So as we went through the process with the planning board, there actually was an ARB review that was done. It was a submission made, building elevations provided. And that was approved as part of the site plan approval in 2018. So what we are now doing is replacing the generic placeholder sign that was in that ARB plan with the specific sign that is proposed here. And as far as your, you know, I've just heard the discussion about how much of a variance is required and the reasons why you're concerned about it, and I appreciate that. If you look at the Hampton Inn, I think there's a couple of other similar variances where it goes from 1 to 2. That's 100%. But what I think is important here is when you look at the size of the signs that would be covered, they are substantially less than what would be allowed for the one wall sign that we are permitting. The architect calculated the wall coverage for the walls on which these are proposed. It's 250 square feet. The total sign, the total of both signs is 111 feet. So it is substantially reducing the one sign size that could be permitted in compliance with your code, because that's not what's important. It's the location along Estrada Road, both on the thruway side and on the western side where people are coming from. So we want to do both things. We want to make ensure that people are aware. The other peculiar thing about this, do you have the submission?
I don't have it available.
Okay. So
I mean, we have the paper of the pictures
Yes.
submitted, but
if you're driving down the thruway, one of the things you realize just before you get to the sign that says, that has the entrance, the exit, is that this is the location. You pass on the bridge, you look to your right, and in about 100 feet, you see what you can see. But you will see just before the entrance, just before the exit, this sign. That's probably the only place it's going to be visible from. But it is important to get that exposure somewhere along the thruway. It's important to the property owner, to the franchise, and it's important to the franchisee. So that's what we're requesting. That's why we think it's reasonable. I did look this afternoon just to be sure that we're not going to be shining this sign in somebody's eyes. The two nearest residents are along Abrams. The hotel is roughly parallel to the thruway, so all the residential areas to the west are not going to see this. You can't see both signs at the same time. And I think it is given what it is consistent with the development of a nice hotel on the site. And the final point is, there is a significant buffer along the thruway of existing vegetation. It's the sort of stuff that if you were going to put a sign like this, you might want to say, protect the properties to the east by planting some trees, so soon they'll have a buffer. That buffer exists today. There's very little, south of the hotel itself, there's very little exposure. Directly across, there's very little exposure. The exposure really is to the north. And one property is, I think, 900 feet. The next property up, 50 Abrams, is over 1,000 feet. So that's really what I have to tell you tonight. I'm sorry I can't go on longer, but
Not a problem.
the
You have all the
gist.
submissions. Any questions from the board?
No, just
Yeah.
to confirm what you said, it's not visible by the residents?
it won't be visible to residents to the west, which is the residential area between the Thruway Bridge. It actually starts on the other side of Woodbury Creek, and it goes out to 32, and there's the culvert and so on. To the north, the immediate north, it's part of the IB district. There's the landscaping. Enterprise to the south, there's the rest of this property and a substantial wetland area, so I don't believe there's anything there.
So how are patrons being directed from 32?
They are going to be directed the way most people are these days with smartphones. To get to the exact location, turn here, Strata Road, drive 1,000 feet. It's actually very simple. Get off the thruway, 32 north, Strata Road, turn right, go 1,000 feet.
Okay, no roadway signs.
No.
No.
Okay.
The only sign variance being requested is for the one that faces the thruway.
Okay.
And given the fact that the sign is facing the thruway, there's really nothing there. So I don't see a problem.
Yeah. One thing I will say, it almost, I'm looking at the satellite imagery right now just to double check. It's like the way the building is positioned on the property, the sign is almost facing the wrong direction, because the only exit you can get off of going that way where you could see it is in Newburgh, and then you'd have to turn around and come back, if I'm understanding correctly.
You will,
You still
well,
consider it
if you
Yes,
have,
okay.
yeah, if you don't have directions, you're not gonna go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do have directions and you're coming from the north, you're looking to see where it might be,
Yeah.
then you'll see it. And it'll be, you'll know it's there. You drive down to the exit and you know you have to come back. So it's pretty logical
Yeah.
from that standpoint. But it is important to have signage, and it's, franchisees have to do their best to get it. So that's why we're here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Any other questions?
None for me.
Mike? No? Ed? No?
I'm good.
Rachel?
No, I'm okay. Thank you,
Okay.
though.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
I'll
you.
open the public hearing. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this application, please feel free. Going once. Going twice. I think that I can take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion?
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. So we'll discuss this at the end if you want to stay, but we're going to have a long wait, I can tell you. So, you might want to head out because it's going to take a while.
I'll go out and come back in a little bit,
If you want.
but I would like to see where you're going with this. Thank you.
Good. Next on our agenda is Woodview Heights, 2 Hill Avenue. This is a public hearing requesting before I go there. For the record, on Aon, the Orange County Department of Public Works, with reference to the 239F indicated on October 11th, no comment and/or approval was necessary.
You did receive the GML as well.
That was GML 239F. There was no other one, I don't believe.
October 11th, yeah.
The planning department it was? I thought you were.
GML 239M.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't see a 239M. I can check, but
Oh, no.
I don't think it required a 239M.
It did, it had a local determination.
Ah, there it is. So 239M, what was the date on that? October 25th, maybe that's why I missed it. 239M came back from Orange County indicating that it was local determination. Should I do secret now? Because it's a type.
Do it if you're going to discuss it at the
Two,
end.
yeah.
That way.
Do it at the end?
Yeah,
Okay.
just before you go into deliberation.
All right, so Woodview Heights, 2 Hill Avenue, I apologize. Public hearing requesting variances for the proposed subdivision of a parcel of land into 13 individual lots, whereas pursuant to section 310-7, the minimum lot area required is 43,560 square feet per lot, and the applicant is proposing lot sizes between 15,566 and 43,833 square feet. Said property is in the R1A zoning district at Hill Avenue and Highland Mills and is known in the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 204, Block 1, Lot 34.2. Sir, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Pleasure to be here. I don't think I've been before your board before. I've been before the planning board, and I will certainly be here tomorrow night before the village board.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, right. My name is Stephen Barshov, and I am the attorney for the applicant. This property has a fairly long history. I will go into it as much or as little as the board wants, but the quick version is that this property was before the board previously for a variance. The variance was denied. There was litigation. This was not litigation that I was involved with at all. I didn't have any involvement in that case whatsoever. Following the litigation, the denial of the variance was overturned by the court, and the court issued an order mandating the ZBA to issue a variance, not for exactly what is being applied for tonight, but for a similar version, at least as far as 6 of the lots are concerned. I think it's a fair reading of the ZBA's decision after the remand that, and I don't know, there may be members that are here tonight that were on the ZBA then. I did not check to see. No? Okay. Well, then I will say this. The ZBA resolution was quite clear, saying that this was being done because the court told them that they had to do it. I don't think that it would be fair to varnish the truth on that. That's exactly what the board said, so that is what occurred. In the interim, there were some years that went by, and there were some changes that the village enacted in terms of what the deductions are from lot area. And so we are here today after the planning board application was filed for subdivision approval for a slightly fewer number of lots overall on this property, but because of the required deductions from lot area, there are variances being requested for all of the lots, or virtually all of the lots, from the minimum lot size requirements if you turn around and have to go through all of the deductions. And the biggest one that is a problem is that there was a change in the wetlands, and also there's the problem of stormwater easements being deducted. Those are the ones that create the largest problem in terms of being able to comply with the village code. So in terms of if one compares this with what was proposed previously, when I've spoken about this, and Kelly and I have spoken about this application at some length because of the prior litigation history and so forth. And when we discussed this, we kind of grouped these two, this property into 2 groups. The previously proposed lots in terms of variances and the lots that are now in addition being requested for variances. As to the previously proposed lots that were granted a variance, those lot sizes are virtually the same. The reason for any deviation is because of changes that occurred in terms of survey data and so forth. It was not the intent to, nor was there any significant change in those lot sizes. As far as the other lots are concerned, they are actually overall a bit larger than what was originally proposed because the number of lots has shrunk from 15 down to 13. So we're here, and it's interesting that I listened to your conversation at length about substantial variances. These are substantial variances. There is absolutely no way of varnishing that. And so they are very substantial variances. One of the things that I would alert the board to is two things. One is that the surrounding area has development, long-standing development, that is at a far greater density and far smaller lots than what is proposed here. I believe most of the lands in this vicinity are a third of an acre, in that range. These are much larger lots by comparison. And the second point that I would make is that when one does look at substantial variances in terms of setting a precedent, and I certainly heard the board's concern, that was the focus of the litigation, actually, that went up, and it was Justice Sciortino, Sciortino or Slobod, one of the two, who issued the decision. And one of the things that she said was, when evaluating this, even when there are very substantial variances that are requested, one of the key inquiries is what is the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the surrounding community. And that was something that the prior board really did not address or consider. And so when making an evaluation about an application where substantial variances are presented, one of the ways of dealing with the question of, is this setting a precedent? Is this really a problem? Is to focus on the individual, and sir, you really hit the nail on the head when you said that you really have to focus on the individual applicant and the property in front of you. Because if you weigh the benefit to the applicant and the detriment to the community, and you present those facts in a decision, you almost always prevent someone else from saying, well, you did it, then you got to do it for me. Because you are articulating the particular reasons why that application either fails or passes. I mean, it doesn't matter which way you go on it, but that's the formula, from my perspective, that you can utilize in order to avoid setting a precedent that locks you in, whether you're denying or you're approving. And so I would encourage you, at least in this application, to, of course, I'm asking for an approval, but I'm saying that in looking at that, one should look at, is there a detriment to the surrounding community? And I would suggest to you that the answer is no. And part of the reason why the answer is no is because of the fact that the lot sizes are so much larger. This is not changing the character of the community. This is not adding more density than would otherwise be appropriate. So what this is doing is saying, look, the village has some very, very serious, significant, and in this case, very impactful requirements of deductions from lots area, and that causes these lots to be non-complying. The applicant has done what it can in terms of even reducing the number. This is the minimum number of lots that can make this thing go. And like I said, we are preserving the original 6 as close as possible given the survey data. And then there's a request for variance for the other lots because of the facts that occurred in between about changes in requirements and wetland delineation. So that's kind of where we are today. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Also, we have the engineers that can give you more technical information than I can as a lawyer.
Great. Questions from the board?
Need to hear more.
You want the whole list or just the top 10? I have several. I'll start. The wetland delineation that's in the dark gray, those are Army Corps of Engineers wetlands, correct? Yes. Is that the actual area of the wetland, or does that so how do I phrase this correctly? Is that just the area of the wetland, or does that delineate the 100-foot buffer?
There's no.
Just pick it up.
Oh, sorry. That just delineates the area of the wetlands. The Army Corps do not require a 100-foot buffer.
Okay. So give me the
Oh, sorry. Laura Preschke, Engineering and Surveying Properties.
Thank you. Might as well introduce your cohort there.
James Martinez, Engineering and Surveying Properties.
Thank you. The wetland mitigation, let's take the one that's smack down the center, the hashed area that's wetland mitigation. Give me a description, please.
The center one is an actual wetland that's still there, and then you're referring to the area adjacent to it?
Correct, to the right.
Okay. That is mitigation for the disturbance of the wetlands that we're creating when we construct the road. So the road will disturb, it's hard to do this. The road will disturb the wetlands in this area and then
And
also
at the
up
top
in
as
here.
well. Right, okay.
So we've provided 2 areas of mitigation.
Right, one in
to
the top
offset
left
that.
corner, which is all the way up at the top, right?
Yes,
And the other one in this area here. Okay.
correct.
And what will you be doing in that wetland mitigation area? Just give me a kind of an overview.
So there's some grading, and then to get down to the elevation of roughly where the wetlands are now, and then there will be some plantings in that area as well to create a wetland environment.
And I don't have the details handy, but then that got deducted as well from the lot area sizes?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in while I'm looking? Go for it.
Okay. The easement for the conveyance of stormwater and sewage on was part of, I guess, the original 10, 11, and 12. And if I'm jumping ahead there, is that in place, or is that part of the deduction, or?
That's part of the proposed deductions, because that's where we're putting in the proposed stormwater facilities for the construction of the new development.
Yeah, there's currently no easements on the property. Those are just proposed easements, sewer, stormwater, running through those lots.
10, 11, 12?
Yes. And there's, stormwater mitigation area on lot 2 as well. And
How did you work around that?
so we started a preliminary design for the site, and as the easement areas are kind of an iterative process, depending on soil testing, updating stormwater to the new 2024 stormwater design manual. Those areas could change depending on how we configure things, how the client wants. So those areas are not necessarily set in stone, which is a little bit of the confusion of how we can deduct that area while still going back and being able to change that area. Those areas are subject to change, unlike wetland area. Wetland mitigation area is subject to change based on our amount of disturbance.
Right.
Steep slopes are not subject to change because slopes are what they are. So that's one of the reasons why we're here today.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
As far as the wetlands change is the big thing, that's different from.
And the stormwater easement areas, They seem very large. Were those not on the prior map?
They were, yeah, no, they were. These are based on our design. I don't believe there was a stormwater easement deducted on the prior approval, but
No, they weren't.
That's my understanding, and it's frankly a little bit of a mystery why that occurred. There's nothing in the record of the litigation that I could see that explained why that was not deducted, but it was clearly not deducted. It was not referenced in any of the documents that I saw or anything else. So I wish I could give you an explanation of why it was not there. I couldn't find a reason why, and it didn't seem to come up on the radar screen, to be quite frank, that anybody raised. They're saying either it's notable that it's not there, here's the reason why it isn't there, it just wasn't there. So should it have been there? I think so, but it wasn't. So we're here now making sure that we do dot all the i's and cross the t's and request all of the required variances.
Okay. Cumbersome, but much easier to read. So essentially, where's the bulk requirements? So we're essentially saying lots 1 through 6, we're treating them. I mean, my concern with 1 through 6, and it's probably mostly lot 2, is, actually, is that true? I don't think the wetlands area changed significantly for lot 2. Is that a reasonable statement? It's all the way at the bottom.
I think it did, yeah, it did change substantially because it was originally separated. Here, there was a piece, and
Oh,
there
no,
was a
I
smaller
realize
piece
in the middle
here.
it changed, but I'm saying lot 2, which is where your finger is now.
Yeah, I
don't
think it
perceive
only
that it
went-
changed significantly there.
It was kind of around this area. It didn't connect as much. Actually, I don't believe it connected at all between here.
Yeah, it didn't.
Right.
I don't think it did, but from an overall size perspective, that one is relatively the same because there were pockets on the original map.
Correct.
It was a pocket down there that was larger, a smaller one in the center, and then one up at the top, basically.
Yes.
So that one probably didn't change significantly. My bigger concern is lot 12. Probably 12 and to some extent
one?
7.
Okay.
And honestly, my concern there is the fact that the wetlands is very close to the proposed dwelling. And there's nowhere to move it. I mean, that lot, I would argue, I could make an argument that that lot isn't buildable by virtue of the fact that the wetlands are literally at the corner of the house. And that would be a concern. I'm sorry?
Lot 12.
Lot 12.
12.
Lot 7 as well.
Lot 7 probably is probably dealing with setback issues because I'm guessing that if let me move that for you. If I can get over there to do it.
Oh, that's
And
this.
it'll work. Lot 7's at the top. And I'm guessing that in this area, you've got the hashed line there that's the setback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you're dealing with setback issue, which if you moved it forward a few feet, you'd be farther away from the wetlands, but it's still pretty close. In that, I'll call it it is the northwest corner of the proposed dwelling. I realize that these are not like accurate, true to anything because you don't know what the dwelling's actually going to look like. But
No, we
these
have
are-
architectural plans for these.
You do?
Yes.
So those are representative of the actual plans the planning board would approve?
Yes.
Okay. That's good.
Yes, and also There are no buffers for these types of wetlands, so the grading has already been taken into account on these, so there will be no disturbance to the wetlands whatsoever to construct those two dwellings.
Okay, and that lot 12, down the sort of, say, yeah, right there, is that dark line around it a retaining wall?
Yes.
Okay. And a proposed height of that off the top of your head? Don't guess. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm just curious as to what the height of it would be.
Yeah, just one more on the wetlands. There are a lot of changes, lots of new laws going into effect for wetlands, and I believe there's some buffer changes. Have that been considered?
Yes, according to the new wetland regulations by the DEC, this area could come under their jurisdiction, which would require a 100-foot buffer. But the DEC hasn't been forthcoming with how that process will be enacted. So we're proceeding with this plan as is
The
until
old scope.
to see how they're going to handle that.
Okay.
So what's the deductions for lot 12?
Oh. Total, 18.6. 42.8%. Wait, no, actually, no.
Yeah, from what I
21,
see, it's
21.
it's almost half an
12,
acre.
21.
It's from a full acre down to, it's 21,454 square feet. And most of it's wetlands.
Yeah,
It's 15,000
all,
square feet of wetlands.
yeah.
So, and if you don't mind, on that same lot, lot 12, since I seem to be focusing on it, the steep slopes are where that you're deducting?
Generally in this area, kind of where that.
The retaining wall is,
So up to the north of that, north of the that corner of the house?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
wow. It almost
for
looks
lot
like
two-
sorry. It almost looks like the retaining wall should be a wraparound retaining wall on the side of the slope area.
It's just due
Just
to
a-
the elevation of the road. We had to bring that house up a little bit just to be able to put that house at a reasonable elevation in relation to the road instead of having it sunken down.
For lot 2 and 3, I'm looking at your charts and your plans, and it's not showing any deductions for wetlands. I don't know if that's, you didn't break it out, and it's all listed under or under right-of-ways? or-
Yeah, because the deduction is 100% for the easements and also the wetlands, and the wetlands are
It's in the same
entirely
area?
inside the easement.
So help me understand the stormwater easements. I kind of got the impression you're saying that's during construction only, or is that permanent?
No, that's permanent. There'll be ponds in there.
Okay, so on lot 2, yeah, lot 2, you basically have a very small area that, well, behind the house is clear, but for the most part, the entire lot is either wetlands or stormwater easement. And if I,
Correct, yes.
right, so move this back up, if I can do it.
Area.
Literally, your stormwater easements, the entire lot, with the exception of this area
Correct.
surrounding the house.
Is that whole area going to be a stormwater pond?
So just as a peek behind the curtain for the design, we had 4 bays running here, bioretention area there for green infrastructure, and detention pond in this corner. Just due to the site's topography, all the stormwater management had to be towards the bottom of the site, just to kind of direct everything to it, treat it, and detain it before I mean, we still have soil testing to do and numerous other things, but that was kind of the direction that we were going to head in.
Anyone else from the board? I'm super concerned about Lot 12 for sure, and now Lot 2, but Lot 2, I guess our legal counsel has indicated that the judge's order is going to stand on that, so we're not going to consider Lot 2 for the moment, although
So lot 2,
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
believe was part of the,
old lawsuit.
1 through
just-
6.
Yeah.
1 through 6.
Lot 7 bothers me more than
No,
anything.
The
Are those numbers
interior,
changed?
It's only the lots on the interior of the loop that were previously granted variance. The lots on the interior of the loop were granted variances previously.
Oh, so the numbers
lot-
changed.
10, 11, 12.
I don't believe they've changed, but
Okay, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are the ones that have the variances?
Those were the old ones.
yeah, these ones,
Okay.
yes.
I guess we need clear confirmation of that, because that's not the impression that we had.
My understanding is that physically, the lots that were inside the loop were the ones that were granted previously, but I'll go back and double check that for you, but I'm almost positive that's the case.
Okay, I think that'd be a good idea, just to be, everybody clear on the same, yeah, to be certain. Okay. So then I don't have to worry about 12 anymore. But I really would be very concerned. I may want to look at that again, just so you're aware, because the wetland change makes a big difference, I think, potentially on that lot.
On lot 12.
yeah, if you look at where the wetland was.
Right.
Yeah.
Because on the original map, the wetland didn't exist essentially at all in Lot 12. And now it's significant. Very large. And just speaking for myself, the concern about the wetlands is essentially anything that's draining here is draining to the south into the lake, and I don't remember the name off the top. Saltzman? Yeah, I think it's Saltzman's Lake, which then effectively is almost like headwaters for the Woodbury Creek, because it comes down past, across 105 and down into Woodbury Creek, which is Village of Woodbury aquifer, essentially. That's where all of our water comes from. So that's my concern about wetland disturbance, wetlands at all, and anything in this area. So just kind of putting a perspective on why I'm concerned about wetlands. Okay. The other thing is we can't take any action on this until the planning board completes SECRA. So just so you know on that perspective. I don't know at the moment that we have anything else that we need to request. I can't think of anything. It's just confirmation on the center lots